Well, hello again on February 1st, talking about a Tom Brady announcement. He did it last year on this exact date, ended up ending that retirement after 40 days. But this time around, it feels like this is finally it for Tom Brady, walking away from the game of football at 45 years old, 23 years in the league, and unequivocally the best to ever do it in the National Football League. There's a lot to decipher with this retirement announcement. Luckily, we have been through this conversation once before and have prepped ourselves in the Tampa Bay area to know what is to come. But first, let's just talk about Tom Brady and the career that he had. He has the most wins all time, the most passing yards all time, the most Super Bowls all time with 7, 5 Super Bowl MVPs, which is more than most franchises have, period. Go down the list of accolades, he is pretty much number one in most major statistical categories for a quarterback in the NFL, and it's going to be pretty tough to topple most of his records, though we will see if that changes with some of the emerging talent happening these days. Having said that, this is a big body blow to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization as far as what their product is going to be on the field next season. I know many of us were wondering, does the team ride with Tom Brady? Are they better with Tom Brady? Are they not? That the front office is going to have to answer questions on what they want to do with this football team without Tom Brady. And of course, many fans in our area, if you were a season ticket holder, you bought season tickets back-to-back years because that was the requirement to make sure that you can see the GOAT. And what we thought could happen and what ended up happening being his last season in the NFL. I think everybody in this area will be forever grateful for the Super Bowl he helped bring, the second ever in Tampa Bay Buccaneers franchise history, back during the pandemic, back when the Super Bowl was also in the Tampa area, which will forever go down in franchise lore. Tom Brady will almost certainly be a Ring of Honor candidate, even though he only played 3 seasons for the team. What he did for this organization, not just on the field with the Super Bowl, but what he did for the organization and raising the profile of the team, providing a lot of, you think back to what this team was before Tom Brady arrived and what they are now. The reputation certainly has elevated, the respect has certainly elevated, and to have arguably the greatest, well, not arguably, he is the greatest football player ever to be part of Buccaneers history. That is pretty impressive, and he will be a first ballot, no doubter, Hall of Famer in 2028 when he's eligible to enter the Hall in Canton. I know many of you out there are probably thinking, like, I'll believe the retirement when football rolls around and he's not on the field. I don't blame you for having that response. He pulled out of retirement once before, but there are a lot of things with that first retirement announcement which are not relevant kind of to today. First and foremost, it's no secret he was going through some personal turmoil. The divorce that was announced during the middle of the season, the reason why he missed some training camp. There were certainly issues behind the scenes, and he was trying to figure that out whichever way he could. And walking away from the game of football at that time was maybe his best chance to try to mend that relationship, salvage that relationship, and obviously things changed. There's also the thought that Tom Brady, as a goal, something he always wanted to do, he always wanted to play in the National Football League until 45. He always believed that he can play, forever, that he always can keep his body in shape to play. And certainly for a man who broke an NFL record this season with completions, he still has the ability to be one of the best quarterbacks in the game. Last year, he almost won the MVP, came in second. But this was more of a personal goal for him to reach 45, and having done that, I think that he's checked off the final accomplishment, the personal accomplishment that he had written down. And then lastly, I think this time around there was a little bit more certainty. Everyone always wondered, why'd you come back, right? The team went 8-9 in the regular season. They did win the division. limped into the playoffs and got absolutely smoked at home to end their season. And people, that doesn't sit well with fans who wanted everything to be great surrounding this career. And all I can argue is sometimes players need to be 100% sure, because when you retire from sports, certainly the game of football more than a lot of other sports, that's pretty much it. It's especially at 45. There is no going back. You can't go back in the time machine and get this life again. Once you're kind of done, you're done, and you don't want to have any second guesses or thoughts that maybe you left something on the field or you left a little bit out there that you wish you could have taken back. I think it's pretty obvious that Tom Brady exhausted every ounce of his being when he's in a locker room with kids who weren't even born when he was a rookie in the league. Everyone's a lot younger these days. The game has changed. He was there are tons of head coaches in the league right now who are younger than Tom Brady, and there's something remarkably impressive about his longevity in the sport. Regardless of whether his stats are broken or not, the longevity is probably something that is hard to imagine is going to be replicated in the future. But this is certainly a day we thought could come. Reports from those who are tapped into the Tom Brady camp believe that he was either going to retire or return to Tampa. I know there was a lot of talk about him possibly playing elsewhere. That does not seem to be the case, at least from those connected again to Tom Brady and his agent and family and whatnot. But then also transitioning into what the team is going to do. That's a great question. And Jason Light and company, who's the general manager of the Buccaneers, is going to have to figure out, does he want to rebuild this thing, or does he feel like the roster in place is good enough to make another push in a really bad division? And I would argue if you don't have a quarterback, that's probably tough to make any sort of Super Bowl push. It just, unless you have the world's best defense, go back to when the Buccaneers won their first Super Bowl, right? Like, unless you have that type of defense, then you really can't plug and play, an average quarterback and think that that's a possibility. So the team is $55 million over the cap. There's going to be a way to mitigate some of that. You're going to have to cut some players. A guy like Levante David, who we've known here for more than a decade, he might not return, as he's on the tail end of his career and might be seeking another Super Bowl elsewhere. There are going to be players coming and going, fresh faces. So this is going to be the next era of Tampa Bay Buccaneers football. And it's very unclear what that's going to look like. But I think everyone in this area agrees that whatever salary they had to push towards the future, whatever hard times are coming, that it was all worth it to experience this Tom Brady finale to his career, ages 43, 44, 45, which produced a Super Bowl win, which produced the following year the best regular season on record ever in Tampa Bay history. And then, of course, this year didn't go as planned, but nonetheless, winning back-to-back divisional titles is also something that this franchise has rarely seen in its long history, dating back to the 1970s. So we're very interested in what you have to say, what your comments are on the announcement. We will be live all day on 10 Tampa Bay and 10tampabay.com, just kind of giving you the updates, and hopefully we will hear from someone with the team, the organization, a lot of the Jason Lights, the general managers, the people who are scouts. They are down in Mobile, Alabama right now as the Senior Bowl is happening. They are trying to prepare for the next crop of players coming into town. We already know that Todd Bowles will be the head coach. We know that they're still searching for an offensive coordinator. That OC conversation is going to be a lot different now for some candidates, knowing that Tom Brady will not be back. But once again, Tom Brady retiring at the age of 45, and it is, to our belief, especially when you look back at the last game against Dallas, walking off the field, tipping the cap, going over to his family in the tunnel, which I can't remember a time that the family's ever been in the tunnel, and then in the post-game press conference thanking everyone and anyone he can. It felt like it felt like the goodbye. And Tom Brady, he's not going to make the same mistake twice. And you can tell that this one wasn't as produced. It was very authentic. It was about a 50-second announcement on Twitter and Instagram saying goodbye and that he's retiring. And that's going to be that. His future will be in the broadcast booth. We know he's got a very lucrative deal with Fox to be their next color analyst. He will provide tons of amazing insight into the sport of football. I mean, to pick his brain and to listen to him week in and week out should be very entertaining. It's going to be a totally different role. It's going to be weird to see, but it had to happen one day, and today is that day twice. So, thank you for joining us again on the Facebook Live. Again, we will be giving you all the coverage you need surrounding this story in the noon, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock on Nightside. So stick with us, and again, you can follow us on our social media platforms, and you can follow me at eKlosky on Twitter, at eKlosky WTSP on Twitter, and also at eKlosky on Instagram. Thank you so much.